Can you remember the last time when you felt so excited at the prospect of reading a brand new novel? That amazing feeling, that excitement, where you count down the days, maybe the hours, even the minutes. I know for millions of people, it could have been a Harry Potter novel. And for a few other millions, it could have been the next Thomas Harris novel or a George R. Martin. And Audrey, for example, my next door neighbor, she loves E.L. James. So she's always counting down the days until she gets hold of another brand new E.L. James. Now, for me, 2 weeks ago, I came across a novelist that I hadn't heard before, Lucy Ellmann. And the novel is Ducks Newburyport. And I read the sample page on Amazon and I thought, I got to read all of it. Not just that, every single thing that Lucy Ellmann had written. So what has happened was there was a delay in Amazon sending me the book. And finally the book is here. So I just got a text here, right here, saying that I can go and pick it up from the Amazon collection point. So I'm going to go. I can't wait to get there. So what I suggest is this. You, through the magic of this camera, come with me. We're going to pick that book up and we're going to have some fun, because I really do feel that this is history in the making. Call me pretentious. I know I'm being hyperbolic, but this is worth it. I haven't felt this excited since reading Jonathan Franzen's The Corrections for the first time, or Don DeLillo's Underworld. It's one of those big epic literary novels that I think is going to change my life in a small way. And if you really love literature, it will have an impact on you as well. So let's go. Are you ready? Let's go. This is history in the making. Could this be one of the greatest novels written in this century? Could Lucy Ellmann become one of the greatest novelists of all time? Let's see. I just hope that this doesn't end up as the Google generation's Finnegan's Wake. I'm hoping that it could be as great as Ulysses. Let's see. Let's open it up. This really is history in the making here. I've been waiting patiently for a few days. Let's see. Open it up. Okay. Oh, here it goes. Yeah. Minimalist design. Let's see. How many? Oh, wow. Paper looks cheap, but Galley Beggar Press have done a good job here. Finally, we got the book and it is amazing. I'm loving it. I only stopped to make this video. Otherwise, I'll still be reading upstairs. Every page has been amazing so far. There are so many things that I love in a novel that's in there. For example, pop culture references. It's funny. It's erudite. And there are many things. I will be definitely be doing a separate video on this. It might even go for 2 hours. Who knows? I might break my record. I do have a tendency to think big, think epic. It seems Lucy Ellmann is like that as well. So even this video, I'm going to try and keep it short, but I can't promise you because I have too much to say already. So amazing start, loving it. But here's the thing. I have about 7 issues to talk to you about so far, just from the unboxing and the initial impressions. So firstly, the cover. Let's get the superficial stuff out of the way. I know the cliche, you shouldn't judge a book by its cover and all that, but we also know that marketing teams for publishers spend a lot of time and money with covers. So let's discuss that. What do you think of this cover? What do you think? Be honest. When I first opened it, I thought to be kind would be to say that it is minimalistic, right? And there is a part of me that wants to be more minimalistic. I'm trying to get rid of a lot of clutter in this house and all sorts of, and trying to be more minimalist in every aspect of my life. So that's a good thing. So the design itself is minimalistic. So you could say the real superstar here is the novel, right? Not the cover. You could say all that. But at the same time, covers are important. Covers can become iconic. Covers can signify many things. For example, in many ways, the most important thing, two most important things in a novel is the title and the cover. These are the first two things that you can use to show off your creative powers, right? So, love the title, and the premise is fantastic. But the cover, I have to be honest, is really bland. It's really unimaginative for a novel that is already amazing, amazingly imaginative, innovative, experimental. The cover is so bland. I know a 10-year-old girl, right? She's really good on her iPhone, and she's got the Photoshop. She could design a cover like this probably in 15 minutes. 15 minutes is done. That's how simple this is. I'm sure even kids in third world countries, you just give them a mobile phone. Within, 3 hours, they can probably design this. It's really bland, unimaginative, lazy. Now, I know you could say I'm being harsh, but maybe by the time I finish reading this novel, maybe I'll understand why they went for this minimalist approach. The other reason could be that Galley Beggar Press is a small independent publisher. Maybe they were trying to save money. We don't know that. But I hope they change the cover because I need to compare this with one of the covers of Ulysses. Now, Ulysses has had many, many covers, right? But this is the one I have, and I love it. Because why? Because it's got a picture of a tower. Just the tower, nothing else. That's enough. Just the photo alone signifies many things, right? As that great philosopher once said, the image has the last word, right? Image is everything. Title is everything. So here it succeeds. The image is fantastic. So they could have gone for something like that, but maybe a photograph might have been expensive. I don't know. So I don't like the cover. What do you think? The second thing that I have to talk about is the quality of the paper. Initially, again, I thought it looks cheap, but then I went and compared it to other big novels that I have, paperbacks, and it seems okay. This is a trade paperback. And in July, I think this publisher did issue limited edition copies. Maybe those copies had used better quality paper. I don't know. The other thing is the fonts and the quality of the print. When you're reading a long novel, so anything that's over 300 pages, you need to have a good quality print. And I have a copy of Infinite Jest behind me, and that print, the font is really small, and it's annoying. It was annoying when I first read it. But this is okay. This is good. This is good enough. It could have been better, but it's okay. But the real issue here is that I'm just grateful that a novel like this that somebody even wrote this novel. That's the real miracle. And what's even more remarkable is that although a few publishers turned it down, Galley Beggar Press took it on, took a risk, and they published it. I'm glad I got it. And I am still a Luddite. I could get a Kindle, but I like having a book like this because I love annotating. I love crowding the pages with marginalia, with my own thoughts. So this will be fantastic for that. Let's talk about epigraphs. What do you think about their use in novels? I have a love-hate relationship with epigraphs. Here, Lucy Ellmann has picked two really interesting epigraphs, and I think this says a lot about her. What's his name? Martin Amis once said, "Novel writing is ultimately an exercise in making decisions." And Philip Roth said, "Writing a novel is ultimately an exercise in problem solving." And I think with Lucy Ellmann, I'm saying this is a combination of both. But it's mostly about decision making, because it's fascinating, the two epigraphs that she's chosen here. And I want to talk about that in a minute. But before that, I want to ask you this question. How do you feel about epigraphs? I mean, do you like reading them? In the early stages of my apprenticeship, I used to love reading epigraphs in novels, and I would collect them, quite really nerdy about it. But then about a few years ago, I met this really an A-list top literary agent in London, and we started talking about epigraphs. And she said to me, her advice to me is that if you're a debut novelist, your goal should be to show off your own voice, right? To demonstrate what you can do. So when you're sending a manuscript in, get straight to the point with your own voice and get the scene moving, right? So and from that moment, I try not to rely on epigraphs. I rely on myself, on my own voice, whether it's a play or a screenplay. I don't use epigraphs at all. Because I think that shows confidence and evolution. You might disagree, discuss in the comment section. But I do agree with this really influential literary agent. But this is Lucy Ellmann's 7th novel. When I read a 7th novel by an established novel, even though I haven't read the other novels yet, I am going to. I know I'm in the hands of somebody who's really confident, who's put in her 10,000 Gladwellian hours. So when she picked these two epigraphs, I want to understand why she picked them, right? So the first one is by Zadok Kramer. And do you know Zadok Kramer? Do you? Be honest. Without Googling, do you know Zadok Kramer? When I first came across this, I thought, she's just making this up. Because I wrote a first novel a few years ago. It got rejected by every agent in London. I liked it, but it has a lot of flaws. Anyway, for that one, it's a satire. So one of the epigraphs I just made up. Just made it up and with pretend ears and everything. Made it authentic. Had fun with that. No wonder it got rejected. Maybe that was one of the reasons. But I thought when I read this one, I thought she's doing the same thing. She just made it up. But then I went on Google, searched for it. And there is a real guy called Zadok Kramer. And he lived in the early part of the 19th century. And he wrote guidebooks in the Ohio state. That's what I read so far. It could be more. But I got distracted by the pages that I was reading. I thought, this guy sounds really interesting. And I immediately thought, I wish I could write a biopic. Maybe a series for Netflix about Zadok Kramer. Imagine that. And have, I don't know, Michael Fassbender as the lead. I'm already thinking, just by Googling this. See, this is how screenwriters and playwrights think all the time, always thinking for an idea. And I thought, damn, I have to read this because I would rather work on that biopic that no one has asked me to do and probably no one will ever. But if you're watching this, anyone for Netflix or Amazon, if you want to look him up, somebody could write a great biopic there, maybe a miniseries. It's there because he's got a really interesting life. And the second quotation, the epigraph, comes from Thornton Wilder. Now, most of us would know Thornton Wilder, one of the most important playwrights and novelists in the canon of American literature. He has won the Pulitzer Prize and the National Book Award, famous for the play Our Town and the novel The Eighth Day. Isn't it great to come across somebody who can excel in two different art forms, the play and the novel? Do you know anyone else like that? I know a few. So it's great. But again, going back to what Martin Amis said about decision making, the quotations that she's picked here is really revealing, because she's picked for the Thornton Wilder. She could have picked so many interesting quotations from him, but instead she's picked one about snakes and insects, and then the one from Zadok Kramer again about streams. To me, that shows two things. The first thing is it is a trailer of how bonkers this novel is going to be. It's going to be a crazy ride. The second signal or a signifier is that she's using this epigraph to show her creative audacity. She's going to do whatever she wants to do. It takes a lot of creative courage to write a novel like this anyway. So she thinks, no, I'm going to do whatever I want to do. It's a bit like me writing a novel or a play or even a YouTube video. This is supposed to be an unboxing video, right? Usually unboxing video should be about 4 minutes. I have a feeling this is going to be huge, but I don't care because it's about creative audacity. I'm having fun in the process. I'm pretty sure she has had a lot of fun writing this because you can feel it on the pages. So what are the precursor texts? One of my favorite literary critics or literary theorists is Harold Bloom. I know he's a really divisive figure. When I was at university, every academic said, don't read Harold Bloom. He's the Aunt Sally of literary criticism. So when you say that to an undergraduate, what's going to happen? He goes and reads everything by Harold Bloom. So that's what I did. I know he has his faults, but I love him. And one of the things I love about him is this theory. So every text has a precursor text. Nothing is completely original. So So when I started reading, I'm already started making a list of Ducks Newburyport's precursor text. So the obvious precursor is Ulysses and other books by James Joyce. But also, and I think there's also Virginia Woolf. In terms of style, ambition, she has to be an influence. We won't know that. I mean, if I ever meet Lucy Ellmann, of course I'm going to ask, but even novelists are not really, will never be certain about where these works are coming from. But I would say some of the Virginia Woolf novels would be precursor texts for this novel. But then I thought about other things because I really think that I started thinking about Cathy Lett. Now, are you familiar with the work of Cathy Lett? She's an Australian novelist but lives in England. Really funny. One of the funniest novelists I know. And I started reading them in the late 1990s because my sister used to read. These are my sister's copies, but I got them now. And they're really funny. And the comedy or the satire, the wit that I'm seeing here is similar in some way. So there's a bit of Cathy Lett there. And the other thing is Phoebe Waller-Bridge. The most exciting playwright and screenwriter in England right now, arguably, I would argue, is Phoebe Waller-Bridge, who wrote Fleabag and also season 1 of Killing Eve. And she's going to write the next James Bond movie. She's really exciting, amazing, a Cancerian. Oh, by the way, Lucy Ellmann is a Libran, but we'll come to that when I do a separate video on this. So Phoebe's humor is here in Ducks Newburyport. That type of humor. I'm not saying, of course, I'm not saying Lucy Ellmann been watching Fleabag. That's not the case. That's not what this theory is about. But it's about finding relationships between text and authors. So I'm having fun so far trying making a list, and I'm sure in the proper video that I'll do, I'll probably come with a long list, and that will be fun. Lucy Ellmann might probably disagree with it. You might disagree with it, but it's fun trying to trace where these ideas are coming from. How do you feel about an author's use of pop culture references? Where do you stand on that? When I was doing all these courses in screenwriting, novel writing, playwriting, and by the way, I never paid for any of them. I won them as prizes. That's why I did it, because I have a lot of issues to do with things like that, courses. But when I did these courses, there was always people, sometimes tutors, who will say, don't use too many pop culture references. I was against that. I love using lots of pop culture references because, Lucy Ellmann does that a lot, and I'm loving it. But how do you feel about this? My channel is really for those of you who are apprentice novelists, screenwriters, and playwrights. So it would be interesting to hear what you think. I read the last journals of William Burroughs, and he has a few pages about this subject where he says that it's good to use pop culture references that places a certain scene at a certain time, and I love that because it makes something authentic. Some of the authors who are really brilliant at using pop culture references is Bret Easton Ellis, and this is a good example. And Glamorama is other novelists like that as well. Chuck Palahniuk is another good one. Fight Club and a few others. Invisible Monsters. And then we have Lucy Ellmann now. And there are others. Jonathan Franzen does it as well. Gillian Flynn in Gone Girl does it brilliantly. So I love it when novelists do that because then it makes that era really memorable. But the people who advise against this, they say, well, for example, if I'm writing a novel and I'm saying a lot about WhatsApp or Snapchat, there's a good chance that in 10 years, we might not have Snapchat or WhatsApp. Then what? That's their argument. But I say that's why we should use references to WhatsApp or Snapchat in our novels, because that will then date it. So, for example, if I'm writing a novel set in 2006 in a British university, I am not going to use Twitter, right? Because Twitter wasn't around. But I will use MySpace. Because I remember MySpace was a huge social networking website. So I will have characters using MySpace. So whereas people who said, oh, you can't use those references, but you're missing that because, and also I would also use music that was really big at the time. I will look at the charts to see which was number one, top 10, and I will somehow make reference to that. Who was the biggest selling artist? What was the biggest film? Somehow, if I'm going to set a novel in 2006 or 1986 or 1976, I'm going to look into all that. I'm going to give reference to that. That makes something alive. So what do you think about that? I have to sincerely applaud the work that Galley Beggar Press are doing. I've been looking at their website. I recommend that if you love daring, innovative, experimental novels, I suggest you go and look at their website. I'm going to put the links in the description. Go and read what they have to say about their mission. Their mission is to find novelists who are innovative, daring, and then they already have an impressive list of authors like DJ Taylor and Toby Litt and many others. And they are also championing writers from working class backgrounds, again, which is, I find that sincerely admirable. This is a publisher that started in 2012. The first big breakthrough novel that they had since 2012 was Amy M. McBride's A Girl is a Half-Formed Thing. Have you read that novel? It was one of those novels that might be challenging but ultimately rewarding as well. And I think if you're into really experimental writing and also something that's trying to do something different, I recommend you just check that. But they're also I also discovered just by looking at their website that they published a novel by a British Asian novelist called Preeti Taneja called We That Are Young. And I looked at the premise and they're pitching it as a modern day King Lear set in India. Straight away, I'm thinking, I want to read that. So I read the sample pages on Amazon and I ordered it. And I can't wait to read that. I'm excited about that one now because I'm, for all sorts of obvious reasons, I'm interested in novels that are set in India, Sri Lanka, and other parts of Southeast Asia. And as I said in another video, India has become a huge and important actor on the world stage in the last 15 years. As a child, I remember India being a really poor nation, but now it's a huge and important player. And I think in the next 20 years, some of the most exciting novelists and playwrights and screenwriters are ones who might have origins in India, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Pakistan, and places like that. There's a lot of energy there. And I can't wait to read Preeti Taneja's novel. So it is really, they are doing something really admirable. You can join their subscription service. I suggest you at least read it. They're also running a short story competition. If you write short stories, the deadline is in mid-September. And look into it. You have to pay a £10 fee, just a submission fee, but I respect what they're trying to do. So if you one of those people who like submitting your work to competitions, do it. When I first started to make this video, I thought, okay, let's keep it under 5 minutes, hopefully 4 minutes. But look what has come. I could actually easily talk or speak about this amazing novel probably for another half an hour easily, but I'm going to end it now because I need to get back to reading this. So what do you think? Are you somebody who usually reads experimental novels? Because if that's the case, as I said, go and check Galley Beggar Press because they seem to specialize in this type of novel. My goal is to make videos that give you value in terms of inspiration, education, motivation, and entertainment. And if you feel that I've given you those values, do please consider subscribing to my channel. If you're already a subscriber, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for liking my work. And when you do things like that, it helps the channel to grow. So thank you so much.